Okay, I'm going to start by saying good morning to all of you guys. Good morning. Nice to see all of you guys. I apologize a little bit behind schedule today. I had a lot of traffic getting here this morning. So Joe actually opened up the classroom, and thank you guys for understanding that we can start class pretty much on time, but I'm just a couple of minutes behind normal. So thank you for understanding. There's impermanence with traffic too, right? Everything's around you is impermanent. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to start off teaching you guys loving kindness meditation. Normally we would start off with a meditation, but this morning what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off teaching you meditation. Then we're going to do it together. Then we'll take our break. Then when we come back, I'm going to teach you how to identify cravings through analyzing the mind. I'm going to teach you how to almost go in and surgically remove cravings, desires, attachments. Then we have this topic of the 4 healthy mental states of loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity. I'm going to teach you those because there's certain symptoms that you can see in your mind, and then you can apply the antidote, which these 4 healthy mental states are the antidote. It's almost like being a doctor, and you're your own best doctor because you live with this mind day in and day out, and you can see these symptoms, and then you can apply the antidote. So I'm going to teach you guys how to do that as well. So this first topic of loving kindness meditation, this is going to help you to understand how to essentially rewire the mind through meditation to have love and kindness so that you can experience harmonious relationships. Remember, this is the antidote to anger, hatred, ill will, and all those lesser versions like frustration, agitation, annoyance, even the slightest dislike, whether you have that towards others or sometimes people have that directed towards themselves. You have like this maybe inner dialogue, this negative self-talk where you're being degrading and diminishing to yourself. This meditation is actually going to help you to be able to eliminate that out of your mind because it's no fun walking around with that in your mind. So I'm going to teach you this, and then as we go, just like always, I'm going to open up to questions that you guys might have, and then we'll do it together. And then each morning of our class, we're going to be starting with loving kindness meditation so you guys can see how that really affects you throughout your day, starting with a loving kindness meditation. So this loving kindness meditation, it's got certain unwholesome qualities that you're eliminating and certain wholesome qualities that you're cultivating, because that's what meditation is. It's a dedicated, active, purposeful training session where you're eliminating certain unwholesome qualities from the mind and you're cultivating certain wholesome qualities in the mind. And you're doing this in the seated, lying, standing, or walking positions. Essentially, meditation is like taking your mind to the gym and you're exercising it and building up certain qualities, and then you can use those qualities all throughout your day. And then there's certain unwholesome qualities that you're getting rid of as well. So these are the 4 meditations that the Buddha taught. These are the only 4 that you would ever need to know in order to get to enlightenment. There's hundreds, if not thousands, of meditations that are out in the world today, but oftentimes those are taking you in the opposite direction of enlightenment. So if you're going to get to enlightenment, you're going to need to get as close to what the Buddha was doing as possible, and that's what's actually going to produce your enlightenment. He's the discoverer, the declarer, the originator of the path to enlightenment. So you would like to know, what did he do in order to get to enlightenment? And these are the only 4 meditations. As you guys learned yesterday afternoon, the breathing mindfulness meditation, that's addressing the craving, desire, attachment, working to eliminate that, where the mind's holding on, craving for permanence. It's training your mind to let go. Then it's also building mindfulness or awareness of mind, and it's helping you to develop concentration. Those are the wholesome qualities that you're practicing all day long. And then the loving kindness meditation is to eliminate the anger, hatred, and ill will, and then all those lesser versions. And then it's helping you to cultivate loving kindness in the mind. And now you'll be able to practice being loving and kind. These others I teach at other times during our different courses and retreats. So I'm not going to really talk about those today, but you can see these other 2 meditations and what they're actually helping you with. What is loving kindness? This is sometimes referred to as metta. If you've ever been studying this with other people, sometimes they like to use the Pali words. I don't use the Pali language because it's better for you to learn in English. There's only 2 words that I still need to use in Pali. That's Gama and Jhana. And whenever I use it, I always define it so you know what those are, because they don't translate to just one English word. But all the other Pali words that were used during in the actual original text, you can actually translate them. So this word metta, it means loving kindness. And what loving kindness is active goodwill towards all beings without judgment, where you're not judging other people to determine determine whether they deserve your loving kindness or not, but instead you're being loving and kind with everybody. You need to break through any kind of wall that you're putting between you and other people, because that's what the unenlightened mind will tend to do. So if you're judging other people to determine if they deserve your loving kindness, you're not practicing the way an enlightened being would practice. An enlightened being understands that if you put out love and kindness, then because of the natural law of karma, it's going to come back to you. You shouldn't expect it. You shouldn't, be waiting for it to come back to you, but it will come back to you the more that you're being loving and kind in the world. So you're not interested in judging people to determine if they deserve your loving kindness. Sometimes people have been taught this with respect. They say, don't respect others until they respect you first. Well, if you practice that and everybody in the world practiced that, nobody would be respecting anybody, because you'd be like, well, I'm not going to respect you until you respect me. And then your friends are like, well, I'm not going to respect you until you respect me. So everybody's like stuck in this log jam where nobody's respecting anybody. If you did that with your loving kindness, it'd be the same way. Everybody would be like, well, I'm not going to have loving kindness for you until you have loving kindness with me. Okay, well, I'm not going to have loving kindness with you until you have loving kindness with me. So you'd like to break through that wall and not allow that to stand between you and practicing loving kindness, because it's whatever you put out is going to come back to you. So if you hold back your loving kindness and you're not loving and kind with people, they're not going to be loving and kind with you either. So you would like to put out loving kindness. This is where you have a genuine interest in seeing all beings be well. This is the antidote, or the wholesome root, or the remedy. This is the solution to anger, hatred, and ill will, and all the lesser versions, even the slightest dislike towards others. Right now, I'm sure there's certain people in the world you like and certain people you dislike. But the more you practice loving kindness meditation and practice loving kindness in day-to-day life, you can eliminate all that. And you can just understand, well, of course, these people do things differently, because that's what's hindering the mind from having loving kindness, is it has cravings, desires, attachments. It wants everybody to be a certain way. And you like those people who do things that way. But when they don't do things that way, that's where the dislike comes in, or the anger, frustration. And you can just understand this is impermanence, where you can love the person while disagreeing with the choices and decisions that they make. So it's going to eliminate the harshness, bitterness, hostility, and resentment in the mind, because it's no fun carrying that stuff around. And sometimes people do carry it around because they think that's the way to get back at this person who has maybe done some kind of harm to you. If somebody's done any kind of harm where they've caused harm maybe to your physical body, to your material possessions, or your reputation, you might feel like you want to harm this person back. And you might think one of the ways to do that is hold on to a grudge or be resentful. But it's not harming anybody else but you. It's kind of like holding on to a hot coal and trying to burn somebody else. The only person getting burned is you. So if you hold on to resentment in your mind, it's only causing harm to yourself. And now that's going to come out in certain situations. So you can uproot this out of the mind and get to the point where you don't have this any longer. This is part of the Brahma Viharas, or the 4 healthy mental states. I'm going to be teaching you that later today. You'll see that there's 4 healthy mental states, and this is one of them that the Buddha taught. In the Eightfold Path, the Buddha teaches about loving kindness as well. One of the things that I was sharing with you guys when I taught you the Eightfold Path yesterday is that the Eightfold Path is a core central teaching that everything else plugs into. So I'm showing you here just some of the places in the Eightfold Path where loving kindness plugs into it, because you need to be able to see how these teachings integrate into each other. So if you remember right intention, which is the second step on the Eightfold Path, the Buddha gives 3 things. He says, practice the intention of renunciation, non-ill will, and harmlessness. This is the intention or thinking or thought that you like to cultivate in the mind. Well, this intention of non-ill will, whenever you see a double negative in English, that's a positive, right? So non-ill will is the same as goodwill. So he's teaching you to cultivate the intention or the thinking or the thought of goodwill towards all beings. And then also this harmlessness, where you're disinterested and incapable of causing harm to others. But how could you cultivate that in the mind if he didn't give you a tool or a technique to be able to help you accomplish that? So that's where loving kindness meditation comes in. And then if you remember from right speech, under the 5 factors of well-spoken speech, that 5th factor, he teaches you to speak with a mind of loving kindness. Again, how could you do that if you didn't have a technique to be able to cultivate it? We might even say that something like right action is based in loving kindness as well, because choosing not to kill, not to steal, and not to have sexual misconduct, that's also a practice of loving kindness as well, including even right livelihood, we might say is based in loving kindness, because you're choosing to not have business in weapons, living beings, meat, substances that cause heedlessness and poisons. And then the way that the Buddha taught you to perform your livelihood is eliminating scheming, flattering, hinting, belittling, and pursuing gain with gain. That's loving and kind to be able to treat people that way. So this loving kindness meditation is going to help you to build this loving kindness up in your mind so that you can actually practice the Eightfold Path closer. And remember, the Eightfold Path is the path to enlightenment. You're going to need to practice that closely. So this meditation is going to actually help you to be able to put all those factors into practice. This is another teaching that isn't part of the Eightfold Path, but like I mentioned, pretty much everything the Buddha taught integrates into the Eightfold Path in one way. So I'm going to share this with you. Prior to this teaching here, where he's starting here, he was actually sharing some other things in his discourse. And what he was actually sharing with his students is he was sharing with them the 5 factors of well-spoken speech. He was reminding them that it would be wise for them to speak at the proper time, what they say is true, gentle, beneficial, and with a mind of loving kindness. And he was also reminding them that even when you practice these 5 factors of well-spoken speech, there are going to be occasions where people don't practice those 5 factors of well-spoken speech with you. That sometimes people are going to speak at the improper time. Sometimes they're going to speak falsehoods. Sometimes they're going to speak harshly. Sometimes they're going to speak unbeneficially. And sometimes they're going to speak with a mind of inner hate. And he says, when people are speaking that way with you, this is how you should function. This is how you should practice. He says, herein, monks, you should train thus. Our minds will remain unaffected, and we shall utter no evil words. We shall reside compassionate for their welfare, with a mind of loving kindness, without inner hate. We shall reside enveloping that person with a mind filled with loving kindness, and starting with him, we shall reside enveloping the all-encompassing world with a mind filled with loving kindness, abundant, joyful, immeasurable, without hostility and without ill will. That is how you should train, monks. So I share this with you so you can see how the Buddha is teaching his students, that he's saying, hey, even though people are speaking with you in unkind ways, where they're impolite, unkind, unfriendly, and disrespectful, you need to train your mind to be unaffected by that, and that you just have compassion for this person, and you have loving kindness for this person. You'll learn today what compassion is concern for the misfortune of others. And loving kindness, you're learning now, is a genuine interest in seeing all beings be well. I think this question came up yesterday where someone was asking, what should I do when someone's being bitter and harsh and hostile with me? And I was saying, you can just walk away and just continue to reside with compassion and loving kindness for that person. So here you can see the words of the Buddha where he's teaching loving kindness, because I like for you guys to be able to learn with his original words so you can see what did he teach and what he didn't teach. And these are all things that I have in the book series, but I'm just extracting them out to be able to present them to you for this particular topic. So you can see the Buddha indeed taught loving kindness, and he taught this loving kindness meditation, because here we have even some more words from the Buddha where he's teaching this. This first one here, he's teaching his son. This is his son, Rahula. Sometimes people think that the Buddha left his family and he never came back. This isn't actually true. If you read the original teachings and you see, he actually taught his son, he taught his wife, he taught his stepmother, because his mom actually died 7 days after his birth. He taught lots and lots of people. In fact, he was teaching so many people as part of his family. His father came to him and begged and pleaded with him to stop teaching so many people, because the royal family was falling apart and there weren't anybody to kind of run the kingdom, because the royal family was all learning with him. So the Buddha instituted some guidance that if you were going to ordain with him, you had to have your parents' approval if you were living at home. Or if you were living at home and you needed your wife or your husband or your children's approval, that he made sure that people were approving of you to go ordain with him because he saw his father in such despair. So here he was teaching his son, Rahula. He says, Rahula, develop meditation on loving kindness. For when you develop meditation on loving kindness, any ill will be abandoned. Right? This is how a perfectly enlightened Buddha teaches. It's very clear. It's very concise. It's very precise. You don't have to interpret this. You don't have to figure out what he's saying. You don't have to read between the lines. It's very clear. Loving kindness meditation eliminates ill will. Right? That's what it does. He's just making it very clear. That's what it did for him. He knew that that's what it did for him. So he then taught it to other people so that then they could experience the same results of what he experienced. Then he says, loving kindness should be developed to abandon ill will. Again, very clear, very straightforward. This is your practice of loving kindness, going out into the world and practicing being loving and kind in your day-to-day life. So there's the meditation, but then there's the actual practice of being loving and kind in your day-to-day life. That's where the real transformation's occurring. The meditation is just filling up your gas tank so that then you can go out into the world and be loving and kind with people. If you were only meditating and that's it, you wouldn't be able to eliminate your anger and hatred and ill will. You're going to need to go out into the world through your intentions, speech, and actions and be loving and kind. So that's what the Buddha is sharing here. And then here's another teaching from the Buddha, which I'll set up for you and help you understand what he's doing here, is you might think that during the lifetime of a Buddha, that he's like the only one teaching, right? And there weren't any other teachers at the time. But this isn't actually true because not everyone knew that he was a Buddha. There were actually quite a few other people who were teaching, and they were actually claiming that it was their teachings that led to enlightenment. Because if you lived during the lifetime of a Buddha, you'd probably be interested in learning from a Buddha, right? But not everybody knows who a Buddha is because a Buddha doesn't go out on the street corner and advertise that they're a Buddha. Instead, they just teach, and then more and more people kind of figure it out that they're actually a Buddha. So there were other people who were teaching during the lifetime of the Buddha, and they had different communities around them and different students. And then the Buddha was teaching, and he had his students as well. And sometimes all of these students would get together and they would kind of talk to each other, kind of comparing notes, like, what does your teacher teach you? And what does your teacher teach you? Probably students do that today too. They kind of get together and talk about what each other is learning from their teacher. So the Buddha is talking to his students, and he says, suppose they ask, meaning those students from other teachers, suppose they ask, but what, friends, is the reason unarisen anger does not arise and arisen anger is abandoned? You should answer, the liberation of mind by loving kindness. For one who attends carefully to the liberation of the mind by loving kindness, any unarisen anger does not arise, and arisen anger is abandoned. This, friends, is the reason unarisen anger does not arise, and arisen anger is abandoned. So here, the Buddha is talking about this arisen anger can be abandoned by loving kindness, and any unarisen anger can be abandoned by loving kindness. What arisen anger is once one of your craving, desire, attachments get triggered, your anger arises in your mind, and now your mind's actually angry. You're experiencing the feeling of anger. So if you bring in loving kindness, that's what'll get rid of that. So say you're at the ticket counter and the airline company just shared with you, hey, your flight's delayed. You're going to have to wait for 3 hours before you leave. And you start noticing the anger arising as a bodily sensation. Then it becomes a feeling in the mind. This anger is arising. Well, you bring in the loving kindness. That's what's going to get rid of that. So that's what the Buddha is saying here is any arisen anger, you can abandon that by arising loving kindness. But then there's this unarisen anger. What unarisen anger is right now sitting here listening to me. You're probably not angry, right? You're probably just sitting here listening to somebody. But there's this deeply rooted container in the mind, this unarisen anger. It's called ill will. It's one of the fetters that are in the mind. If one of your cravings get triggered, that anger can arise at any moment. It's unarisen right now. Hasn't arisen, but it's there. It's a deeply rooted container in the mind. So the way that you get rid of that is you've got to break that up. That's what the loving kindness meditation is. It's almost like taking a jackhammer and breaking up this unarisen anger. So what the Buddha is teaching you to do with those 4 foundations of mindfulness that I taught you yesterday, the bodily sensations, the feelings, the condition of the mind, and the mental objects, is he's teaching you to put a blockade at the bodily sensations so you can cut off and let go of any potential feelings that are arising so that you can cut it off and let it go as a bodily sensation. But then you have to go in and uproot these mental objects out of the mind. The mental objects are the 10 fetters, the 10 individual pollutions. You need to uproot those out of the mind. That's the purification of the mind that the Buddha is teaching you to do in order to be able to get to enlightenment. And this loving kindness meditation is going to help you uproot this ill will, this mental object or this fetter, this pollution of ill will. It's going to be like a jackhammer to uproot that deeply rooted container out of the mind. So that's what he's explaining here, is that any unarisen anger does not arise and any arisen anger is abandoned if you bring in loving kindness. So between practicing loving kindness meditation and practicing loving kindness in your day-to-day life through your intention, speech, and actions, that's what's going to eliminate your anger. Okay, and all those lesser versions too. So any questions on anything I've been sharing with you so far? Anything you guys would like to ask? For you guys online, you can put your questions into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, or you can raise your hand in Zoom and ask any questions that you like. No questions? Okay. So now I'm going to teach you how to actually do this loving kindness meditation, because now you probably have confidence that the Buddha actually taught it and you understand how it's applicable and how it's actually going to help you to eliminate that anger, hatred, and ill will, because that's standing in your way of having harmonious relationships. You can see in your relationships that the people you're the closest with, you probably have a certain amount of anger and frustration and agitation and annoyance. And now that comes out through your intention, speech, and actions, and it's damaging your relationships. So getting rid of this anger out of your mind is a big step towards having harmonious relationships with other people. So the way you do this meditation is you start with the chanting. You guys perhaps have learned that, or at least you've been part of it, where I've actually been chanting. You're welcome to chant if you like to. You actually don't have to chant in order to be able to get to enlightenment today. During the lifetime of the Buddha, they had to chant in order to get to enlightenment. They had no other way of remembering the teachings. Chanting was required during his lifetime. Where today, you definitely would like to ease your mind into meditation so that you can get more benefit out of the meditation. But whether you choose to chant or not, it's a choice for you to make. I use chanting because I've seen the benefit in it, but not everybody actually enjoys chanting. So I would encourage you to give it a try, but you could actually still get to enlightenment without chanting. This is the only thing that I teach, the one thing that I teach, that if you didn't do it, you would still be able to get to enlightenment. All the other stuff that I teach you, you would need to understand and practice in order to be able to make your way to enlightenment. So I do the chanting as a way to ease into the meditation. Then there's a breathing mindfulness meditation, where it's kind of preparing your mind for the loving kindness. That's where you focus on the breath. And anytime the mind moves off the breath, you cut that off and let it go and come back to the breath. So you only need about maybe 3 to 5 minutes of breathing mindfulness meditation at the beginning. Then you go into the loving kindness meditation. With the loving kindness meditation, you're using these phrases and you're repeating them on the out breath, where you start with, may I be peaceful. And you repeat that in your mind, because you're going to be hearing me say it out loud as I'm guiding you, but you would repeat this in your mind on the out breath. May I be peaceful. Then on the next breath, may I be safe. Again, on the out breath, may I be well, and may I be free of all discontentedness in the suffering it causes. So you start with I. Then you're going to hear me go through these successive rings, where we're going to do about 6 rings, and we're going to eventually get to all beings. This here is just a visual aid to kind of show you how it's structured, but you're going to hear me do something that's not here, where you're going to hear me say things like, may mom and dad be peaceful. safe, well, and free of discontentedness. So you're going to hear me go through different rings. It's important to understand that when I'm doing these rings and you're doing them in meditation, you're not sending loving kindness to mom and dad, right? You're not trying to change mom and dad through your meditation. In fact, you can't. It's impossible to change other people through your meditation. If it was as easy as changing other people through your meditation, there'd be no such thing as rapes and murders and child abuse and none of that stuff, because we would all just get together, we would meditate, and that stuff would instantly vanish out of the world, right? But that's not the way the world works, is that this meditation is actually to train your mind. Because what sometimes people think is the way to get to harmonious relationships is to change the other person. But the way you're going to get to harmonious relationships is by changing your own mind. By uprooting this anger and hostility, more and more you can put out loving kindness, and this is what will come back to you. So we're going to go through these different rings, and I'm going to create a meditation based on all of us and guiding all of you. So you're going to hear me say things very general, very broad, like may my family, friends, coworkers, and neighbors, things like this. And then ultimately we're going to get to all beings. Then we're going to go back to breathing mindfulness meditation to come out of that meditation. Then we're going to go back to the chanting, and that's where we'll finish it. The way that I think about it is it's kind of like a loving kindness sandwich where you've got loving kindness in the middle, and then the lettuce tomato is like the breathing mindfulness meditation on either side, and then the bread holding it all together, that's the chanting. Okay, so this is the structure of how you structure your meditation. But now let's talk about the uniqueness for you, because you're going to need to customize this for you. What a lot of people like to do is they will start, of course, with I and end with all beings, but then they'll do like a ring or two of people that they do have loving kindness for, because this kind of helps bubble it up in your mind. Then they do like a ring or two of people they're more neutral about. They don't exactly hate them, but they don't really love them either. It's maybe like coworkers or neighbors or something like this. So you might do a ring or two of people like that. And then you do a ring or two of people that you do have anger and hatred for. So while you're going to hear me say things very generally, because I'm doing a meditation that applies to all of us, you're going to need to do a meditation like if you have someone named Bob or Rebecca or Susie in your life, you're going to need to do, may Bob be peaceful, safe, well, and free of discontentedness, right? You're going to need to actually use specific names, whether these people are currently in your life or they're in the past. Even if they're dead and your mind is still holding on to anger and resentment towards them, your mind's not liberated. So you're going to need to use your mindfulness to know, where is the anger? Where is the frustration? Is there an ex-boyfriend or ex-girlfriend that your mind's holding on to anger and frustration? Is there an ex-boss or coworker? Is it a member of your family? You're going to need to put them in your meditation, probably for an extended period of time. You can put an individual, but you can also put groups of individuals too. So let's just say you have hatred towards all politicians. You could say, may all politicians be peaceful, safe, well, and free of discontent. This is when you're doing it on your own, right? Or maybe you have hatred towards all police officers. You might say, may all police officers be peaceful. It could be some certain race, a certain ethnicity, or something like that. Maybe you've had hang-ups with that kind of thing. A certain gender, maybe you're having difficulties with. So this meditation is customizable. You're going to need to customize it based on your specific needs. And what you might find is that people move in and out of your meditation. When I first started doing this, I had a lot of negative self-talk within my own mind, and I had a lot of resentment towards my mom because of the expectations that I had during childhood, and I was bitter and harsh and hostile. It was all being caused by my own mind. So when I first started this, I used to do myself 2 or 3 rings, and then I would do mom 2 or 3 rings, and then I would do all beings, and that was it. And that's what I used to do for a good 6 months. And then I started noticing that I wasn't angry at mom anymore. So then I started customizing this. And at the time, I was in business. So there were times where maybe like there was a problem that I had with an employee and I was angry at the employee. So they would show up in my meditation for a week or 2 or 3. Or maybe a certain customer would show up in there for a week or 2 or 3. There was one time where a landlord of one of the businesses where I was operating came in and threatened to kill me in front of my employees, in front of my customers, and he went in my meditation for like a week or so. There was even times where I would get cut off in traffic. I would get really angry because, when you have this craving for this lane to be yours and you're craving for other people to drive in a certain way, when people don't do things your way, you'll get angry. So I didn't even know this person's name, but for about 3 days, it was, may that person who cut me off in traffic be peaceful, right? So I did this for about 3 days because you're not interested in your mind being wired with this anger. If you allow that anger to be in there, I wasn't even angry at that person. What you'll notice is if you do this meditation, you'll actually notice that it actually affects the way you function. The way I used to drive is that when people would cut me off, I used to be like, all right, brother, may you be well. You can have that lane. Go ahead. It's yours, right? Go ahead. So you might notice that when you do these affirmations, it starts coming up in your day-to-day life. That when people cut you off, it's like, oh, may you be well. You can have the lane. It's up to you, right? So I wasn't even angry at the person who cut me off. I just put him in my loving kindness meditation, him or her, because I just was interested to make sure the mind didn't form any anger and resentment and hold on to it, right? So you'd like to break this up. The longer you allow your mind to stay wired this way, it's just going to keep doing it over and over and over and over again. So this meditation is counteracting all of that. But then you're going to need to go out into the world and be loving and kind through your intention, speech, and actions. So any questions on the meditation itself and how to customize it and all that good stuff? No questions? Okay. Let me see if we have anything here online. Good morning to all of you guys online, or good evening, whatever it might be. All right. Looks like we have a question here. Oh, no, this was from something else. Sorry. All right. Okay. So let's do this together then. What I'm going to do is start with the chanting. You guys are welcome to join in. The chanting sheets are over there on the cabinet. For those of you guys online, you can get the chanting sheets on our website at buddhadailywisdom.com. You can click on free books. And then if you scroll down towards the middle of the page, you'll see the daily chanting sheet. We're going to do these chants on the way into the meditation. Then after the chanting, I'm going to come in with some guidance for the breathing mindfulness meditation. Then there's going to be a brief period of time of quietness during the breathing mindfulness meditation. Then I'm going to come back in with the guidance for loving kindness. Then we're going to go back to the breathing mindfulness and we'll come out with the chanting. And then we'll have a little talk afterwards, after you guys have had a chance to experience it, because then maybe you have some questions at that point. Okay, so make yourself comfortable. The loving kindness meditation we usually do in the seated, lying, or standing positions. We usually don't do it in the walking position. Arahang Sama Sambuddho Mahakeva Otang Mahakavanang Apivateyami Savakato Mahakavata Tammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Mahakavato Savakasangho Sanghang Namami Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Sama Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Sama Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Sama Sambuddhassa Iti piso emahakawa arahang sammasammuto vicacaranang sammuno sakatoro kawitu anutero purisa Dhamma sati satatawa manusanang Bhutto Bhagavati. Okay, with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable, in the upper body erect, just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here you're just looking to establish the breath, a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. Not forced or controlled, just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, but that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathing gradually through the nose, developing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose, experiencing the full breath. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start fixating the mind on the breath, either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. Then I'll be back with more guidance on loving kindness meditation. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. Continuing to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. Repeat these phrases in the mind on the out breath. May I be peaceful. May I be safe. May I be well. May I be free of all discontentedness and the suffering that it causes. May mom and dad be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness and the suffering it causes. May my family, friends, co-workers, and neighbors all be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness in the suffering that it causes. May all those who have caused me harm be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness in the suffering that it causes. May all those who I have harmed be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness in the suffering that it causes. May all beings, wherever they reside, be peaceful. May all beings be safe. May all beings be well. May all beings be free of discontentedness in the suffering that it causes. Now return back to breathing mindfulness meditation, focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. Breathing in and out. สัมมาสัมพุทโธมหาเกวาพุทธังมหาเกวันหังอภิวาเทมิสวากขาโตมหาเกวตาธัมโมธัมมังนามัสสามิสุปฏิปันโนมหาเกวโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนามามินะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมหาเกวาอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชาจารณังสัมมุโนสกาโตโรกาวิตุอนุเตโรปุริสาดามาสติสัตตาตาวามนุสรังพุทโธภะคะวะติ Okay, if you guys would like to slowly make your way out of meditation, I'm just going to review a few things with you guys related to this meditation, and then I'm just going to open up to whatever questions you guys have related to this meditation, if there's anything you guys would like to ask. So again, you're going to need to customize this meditation for you. This is just for us here that I'm guiding you guys, in a meditation that applies to everybody. So you're going to need to put people in your meditation that you actually have anger and hatred towards, even people that you already have loving kindness for. You'd like to put them in there too, because it bubbles that up. So you can put a ring or two of people you do have loving kindness for, kind of a ring or two of people you're more neutral about, and then a ring or two of people that you have anger and hatred for. And starting that out with all beings, and starting out with I, and then ending with all beings, right? So you're going to need to customize this. And this is going to change over time. This is where your mindfulness comes in, that it actually helps you to have that mindfulness or awareness of mind to know who it is that you have anger towards, either a person or a group of people. You can put them into your meditation. It's important to keep in mind that you're not trying to change other people through your meditation. You're also not trying to invoke some special power to make mom and dad peaceful. It's not like a prayer or a wish or anything like that. This is actually to soak into your mind that you're interested in just nothing but having loving kindness towards all these different individuals that are in your life. You would like to get to the point where you have nothing but loving kindness towards everybody and anybody, a genuine interest in seeing them all be well, understanding that they are responsible for their own wellness. You are not responsible for other people's wellness. It's their decisions that are going to lead to their wellness. So while you can have a genuine interest in seeing them be well, you're not responsible for their wellness. Then the next thing to understand is that when you're doing this meditation on a consistent, ongoing basis, it's best to do it in the morning. And then you go out in your day with loving kindness permeating in your mind. And that's where you can be loving and kind in your intentions, speech, and actions with others. But that doesn't mean you couldn't do it in the afternoon or the evening or something like that. Because remember, any ill will or any anger that's coming up in the mind, it's loving kindness that'll eliminate that. So if you got a phone call at 2:00 and you got some news and you're noticing anger coming up in your mind, boom, loving kindness, right? Don't allow your mind to stay wired that way with the anger and hatred. You'd like to break that up as soon as possible and get it out of the mind. And then lastly, what I'll share with you guys is as you're doing this on a consistent, ongoing basis, you're going to be gradually wearing away your anger, hatred, and ill will. This is how the mind works. It's not like you have a headache and you take a pill and 30 minutes later your headache's gone, right? It's not like you do this meditation and then 30 minutes later you don't have any anger in your mind. You're going to need to gradually wear away this anger over time. The Buddha gives a really good analogy on this, a really good story. He talks about this digging tool that has a wooden handle. And if you were digging with this wooden tool every single day, you're going to be wearing away wood from the handle. But you're not going to know how much wood you're wearing away from the handle every single day. But when this handle is completely exhausted and you need to replace it, you're going to know that, right? But each day you're not going to know how much wood you're wearing away from the digging tool's handle. The same thing is true with your anger, that if you stay committed and dedicated to this meditation and practicing in your day-to-day life, each day you're going to be wearing away anger and hatred and ill will and all those lesser versions each day. But you're not going to know how much. But when it's completely gone, you're going to know that. Because it's been 6 months, a year, 2 years. You haven't been angry. You haven't been frustrated or irritated. And the way that this is going to work is it's going to work in individual relationships. You'll see that if you have anger towards your mom, your dad, your brother, your sister, your life partner, your children, you're going to see that maybe with your mom, for example, that you will go 6 months or a year with no anger whatsoever towards her, but maybe you still have anger with these other people over here, right? And then you'll get to a point where you don't have anger towards your dad or your life partner or so forth, but you still have anger for these people over here. So slowly but surely, you'll clean up all your relationships this way, where you'll gradually wear away the anger, hatred, and ill will and all the lesser versions. But you're not going to know how much each day. But when it's completely gone, you're going to know that. Because it'll be 6 months, a year, 2 years, no anger, no frustration, not even the slightest little bit of irritation towards that person. You'll know that it's completely gone. Okay, so this is how you would like to implement this. Any questions that you guys have now that you've had a chance to experience it? Maybe you have some questions you'd like to ask. No questions? Okay. You have a question? Yes, ma'am. If you can, could you get a microphone? There's a bunch of people online joining us. They'll appreciate that.
Yeah. For the phrase, may I be peaceful, may I be safe, may I be well. And I used to do some psychology manifest, and the terms is coming to I'm peaceful, I'm safe, I be well. And the wrinkle is the same. But I want to know, may I be peaceful. I mean, compare these different sentences, will have different meaning, or I want to know if have any difference.
So each one of these phrases, right? Yeah. So what these are what's called non-burdening phrases, where you're not interested in burdening in your own mind the other person with having to do something before you're loving and kind with them. So for example, if we said, may mom be kind, right? Or may mom be polite, right? This requires mom to do something before you will be loving and kind with her. So what you're doing is you're using these non-burdening statements where it's in your mind, you're just cultivating the genuine interest in seeing mom be peaceful, safe, well, and free of discontentedness. Understanding that she's the only one that can do that for herself, but you're cultivating in your mind that that's what you're interested in for mom, is to be peaceful, safe, well, and free of discontentness. Whereas if you say, may mom be kind, now you're kind of looking out for mom to be kind before you will practice loving kindness with her. So you would like to use non-burdening phrases or non-burdening statements, and that's what these are. They're non-burdening, so that way you can just cultivate this genuine interest in seeing her be well. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Anything else you guys would like to ask? Yeah, you can use these. These work in the front. They don't work all the way in the back of the room.
Hello? Okay. I just wanted to know, when we're meditating, do we have to close our eyes? Because it tends to make me feel sleepy.
You don't have to do anything in the world except die. That's the only thing you have to do. You can't avoid that. You will experience death. So you could meditate with your eyes open, but let me explain to you the reason why we close the eyes in this particular meditation is because it allows you to go inward a lot more, because what's causing the mind to be discontent is its cravings, desires, attachments, and the sense bases are doorways for that. So the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, the body, and the mind itself, these are the doorways that are experiencing contact. And when you experience contact through those sense bases, it now triggers one of your cravings, desires, attachments, because you see that contact as either agreeable or disagreeable. And if it's agreeable, you get pleasant feelings. And if it's disagreeable, you get painful feelings. So if you close down one of the doorways, it allows you to go inward. And if you're experiencing sleepiness, what I would suggest is, so by going inward, you get more benefit out of the meditation. If you're feeling sleepy, what I would suggest is that you change position to a standing position for this meditation. For the breathing mindfulness meditation, you could do walking, but also it sounds like you're going to need some more sleep because, yeah. So sometimes people sleep a lot, but they're not getting very good quality sleep, because your mind is carrying around this burden of craving, desire, attachment, and you've been carrying it around your whole life, where your mind's been chasing. And now when you start training your mind with these teachings, you're putting down that burden. It's like carrying 2,000 pounds on your shoulders, and you put it down and your mind's like, oh, thank goodness, now I can finally rest. So even though you're getting a lot of sleep, you might not have been getting quality sleep because your mind hasn't been performing to the point where it's putting down this burden. So what people notice when they're first starting to train this way is they notice that there's like a 3 month, 6 month, maybe even a 1 year kind of hump that you have to get over, where your mind's going to have more of a tendency to sleep, either in meditation, but even day-to-day life. You might notice that you're more sleepy during your day-to-day life because your mind's finally like, I can put this burden down. I can rest now. So once you get over that hump, you'll notice that you don't get sleepy in meditation anymore, as long as you're getting regular sleep. So either get some sleep, if that's what you need, or switch positions. And then just understand there's this hump that you need to get over before your mind will brighten up and be more alert and more attentive during meditation. Mm-hmm. Ted, did you have a question? I see you have a microphone. Oh, okay. You're just looking at it.
It's my binky. I don't know. I was trying to form a question. I love the idea of loving kindness meditation, and it putting me in a different state of mind. I was going to say better, as to where I can go out into the world and conduct myself with more loving kindness, and specifically toward the people that I'm including in my rings. But it also made me think of through all of my time, the idea of pray for this person, pray for these things, pray, and I'm trying not to border on slander, I guess. But just, it was a lot of prayers of trying to change people, places, things, and how it hasn't worked in all these centuries of, world peace and no war, and but really how I can just conduct myself more skillfully, and I have a lot of work to do, because I was having trouble with a ketchup bottle this morning, and I had a few choice words for it. And it not only, and then it spilled over to my runny eggs, and then I have work to do. Long story short, I'm very grateful to be here. Thanks.
Yeah, it's good to know that, right? Because in the past, maybe you would have been blaming other people around you, and now you realize it's your own mind. So that's a good place to be. So yeah, that's why I make it very clear that this meditation isn't to change other people, and you're not sending loving kindness to others. Instead, it's cultivating your mind, because people have been so used to praying and their mind has been conditioned that way. So when they hear these things, I think that that's what it is. Sometimes there's people even that do this meditation, Buddhist people, that's what they think they're doing. They think they're changing other people, or some people think they're invoking the power of the Buddha to change the world and things like that. But there's nothing on the path to enlightenment that is about going out into the world and changing other people. It's always about changing your own mind, right? So that's a good place to be, that you know that you have some work to do, and now you're learning how to actually do it. So good. All right. You have another question? Yeah, go for it.
Hello. Going back to her, sorry, I don't know your name. When she said, may I, because when I used to practice like Louise Hay or other like Wayne Dyer, they would tell you to say, I am peaceful, not may I be peaceful.
But you're not peaceful.
But you're supposed to put out there, I am. Yeah.
That's not a true statement, though. So you're not manifesting this, right? There's no such thing as manifestation.
I think it's manifesting it. Am.
That's like a whole misunderstanding in the world. Like that they talk about this law of attraction and manifestation. All that is prayer. Right? Someone's praying to God, asking God to change them, or they might be saying, let me put this out to the universe so the universe will create this for me. So people have substituted the universe for God, and they've substituted prayer for manifestation. And now, they didn't think that this whole God and prayer thing worked, but now they're essentially doing the same thing, but they're just replacing the characters in the story, so to speak. There's no ability to just manifest something into the world. Anything that you experience in the world, you need to make choices and decisions to experience those things. That's the natural law of Gamma, of cause and effect, that whatever decisions you make, that is going to then produce a result. So one of the teachings that the Buddha has on these kinds of topics is he'll say, if you aspire for peacefulness, practice the way of peacefulness. Right? So you need to practice, you need to make decisions to get towards peacefulness. So just saying, I am peaceful, it's a lie. It's not true. You can't just manifest it in the world. You're going to need to move the mind towards peacefulness and understand how to actively do that through your decision making. So that's where the Eightfold Path comes in, to teach you how to do that. So I would encourage you to use those phrases. This works. I know this with 100% certainty. And the way that you can know that is if you go an extended period of time with no anger and frustration in your mind, then you know this works. And that's why I teach it to you, because I know that this works. Every single thing that I teach you, I've independently verified. I don't come in here and share with you guys things that, oh, somebody told me this will work, or I saw this in a book and you might want to try this. This could possibly work for you. That's not the way I teach. I teach you based on my own direct experience, what works to move the mind to this enlightened mental state. And I know this works 100%. And if it works for me, if it works for others, it'll work for you too. You're just going to need to build confidence in it and then choose to do it and see that it works for you. So even though you guys have been exposed to other things from other people, I know with 100% certainty what I'm teaching you will lead to your enlightenment, but you're going to need to build that confidence through actually practicing it. And if you learn it, you reflect on it, and you practice it, you'll see that it works for you too. Any other questions you guys have? Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so for me, when I say, may I be peaceful, it's like I'm asking, that's my understanding at least.
Mhm.
It's like I'm asking somebody else, may I be peaceful? It's kind of like, may I have a piece of bread? Like I'm asking you, may I have a piece of bread?
Mhm.
So may I be peaceful? I feel like I'm asking something else or somebody else to allow me to be peaceful. So that's my understanding of may I.
Mhm.
That's why I'm a bit confused with.
Yes. So that's why I'm sharing. They're not going to be able to hear you online. But anyway, that's why I'm sharing with you guys that that's not what this is, right? These are phrases that you repeat in your mind, and you'll see it works if you try it. If you work with it, you'll see that it works 100%. But you've just got to decide for yourself to do it.
So I'm kind of like asking myself.
No, you're not asking yourself. You're soaking into your mind that you have this genuine interest in seeing this being be well. So you're not asking anybody to make you well. You're cultivating in your mind that you have the intention or the thinking or the thought of this being well and other beings being well too. So you're not asking permission or you're not asking anybody to change you, but you're soaking into your mind that you would like to see this being be well and every other being to be well too. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Anything else? No? So one of the things that the Buddha teaches you is that you're going to need to have confidence, right? Right now, you probably have doubt in your mind. That's one of the pollutions, those fetters that the Buddha teaches you. There's 10 individual pollutions. One of the fetters, one of the pollutions in the mind that an unenlightened being will have is they will have doubt about the teachings of the Buddha. And that's normal for you to have doubt. The way that you eliminate your doubts is not through blind belief or faith or anything like that. You're going to need to get to confidence, where you have confidence in the Buddha, you have confidence in his teachings, you have confidence in the community that you're part of, you have confidence in your teacher, and you have confidence in your own ability to get to enlightenment. The way you get to confidence and elimination of this fetter of doubt, this pollution of doubt, is you're going to need to investigate and examine the teachings. Then you're going to need to reflect on them to independently verify them, and then you're going to need to practice them, integrating them into your day-to-day life. You can harness this doubt, turn it into an inquisitive mind, and now soak your teeth into it. Your mind in the unenlightened state is going to be constantly trying to figure out things that the Buddha is teaching you that are not true. And you're going to be constantly trying to push them away, thinking that somehow, this isn't going to work. That doesn't work, or that doesn't work, or that's different than what I currently think about the world, or that's different and that's different. The mind's constantly trying to push away the very thing that's actually going to be helpful for you, particularly if you've learned things from other places. So just understand your mind's constantly going to have this doubt and constantly trying to justify what it is that you're currently doing. Right now, you know you're in the unenlightened state. You know that your mind currently gets angry and frustrated and sad and all these other discontent feelings. Whatever you've been doing up to this point hasn't worked. Otherwise, you would be peaceful and you'd be joyful. So now what you're learning is something that is going to actually help you. I know with 100% certainty, these teachings will lead to your enlightenment. But you need to have that confidence. But it can't come through blind belief or faith or anything like that. You need to investigate and examine. You need to reflect to independently verify, and then you need to practice. And if you practice these teachings, you'll see that it leads to your enlightenment too, because you're going to see gradually, slowly but surely, that the teachings are improving the condition of your mind. So it's normal to have doubt when you're learning the teachings. You'll have doubt maybe for a year or 2 or 3. I don't know. It's up to you. It's your own mind. But you need to be able to have a certain level of confidence that you're willing to learn, reflect, and practice. And as you're practicing, you'll see that this works. I have 100% confidence that it works. Otherwise, I wouldn't come here every single day and share these teachings with you at no cost. I wouldn't have given up my career and my businesses and all the other things that I do if I didn't know with 100% certainty that these teachings will help every single person on this planet to experience enlightenment. And I can look each one of you in the eyes when I say that, because I know it with 100% certainty that these teachings lead to your enlightenment. But you're going to need to get to that level of confidence. And the only way you can do that is through practicing it. So while you've been exposed to other things before, this is what works. I assure you of that. But you're going to need to see it for yourself. Okay. Any more questions you guys would like to ask here? Yeah, Ted.
David, it's just more of a realization that in the back of my mind, it's so clear how I have the fetter of doubt. Mm-hmm. Because what are we coming up on? Almost 2 years of learning from you, and in theory, it makes absolute sense. The teachings of the Buddha, in theory, make absolute sense. But then, still, when I hear you say absolute certainty that this will work, my mind still says, "Well, that works for you. It's not going to work for me. I'm different." You know what I mean?
That's what the unenlightened mind does. It's always looking for the escape hatch.
So clear, and I appreciate you calling me normal, because I don't feel that most of the time. But it's normal to have doubt until I rid myself of that pollution. Yeah. But again, I'm in the right place.
This is something to keep in mind, that the teachings of the Buddha have been around for 2,500 years for a reason, right? If they didn't work, they wouldn't still be around, right? They actually work. That's why they've been around this long. This is why when you look around in Thailand, you see a pretty peaceful population of people, right? I mean, of course, there's Thai people that get angry here and there, right? But you're living in an environment where a lot of these people are practicing these teachings. Not all of them, but a lot of them. And you can see it's a pretty peaceful place. Things function pretty well here, right? So that's your proof right there. The proof's in the pudding, that you can see a society of people that are learning and practicing these teachings. It's actually working to create a society of people that are very peaceful. So if you would like to experience that peace and joy, I know with 100% certainty, this is what'll do it. That's why I share it with you. So yeah, I understand you guys have doubt, and I understand it takes a long time to overcome that doubt. The more you soak into the teachings and you actually practice them, you'll see that they work, and eventually you'll overcome that doubt if you're going to get to enlightenment. But oftentimes what the unenlightened mind does is it's always looking to justify itself so it can just hold on, because the mind in the unenlightened state is actually quite complacent. Right? It's holding on to all these sensual desires. As I taught you guys yesterday with the Four Noble Truths, the unenlightened mind craves permanence. Another way to say that is that the unenlightened mind does not like impermanence. The unenlightened mind doesn't like change. Well, what's the very first thing that you learn on the path to enlightenment? Is you've got to change. You've got to change the way you think. You've got to change the way that the things that you've learned in the past that aren't working for you. You need to practice that intention of renunciation. Be willing to let go of your false beliefs, your false opinions, your false views, right? If you continue to hold on to the things that you currently think about the world, you'll never get to enlightenment. So the unenlightened mind craves permanence. It does not like impermanence. It doesn't like change. And the first thing that you learn on the path to enlightenment is you've got to change. And your mind's like, no, I don't want to do that. That's too much work. I don't want to change. So there's the body, and then there's the mind, and then the combination of these two things is the person. The person's like, hey, we would like to get to peacefulness here. I'd like to get to some peace. And your mind's like, nah, that's not what we're doing. We're going to stay holding on to all this stuff over here. And the person's like, come on, dude, get with it. Like, let's get to some peace. And the mind's like, nah, we're not going to do that. So it's going to constantly be looking for things that is like, no, I can't do that, or that's wrong, or that doesn't work, or that, not that you guys are thinking that way, but that's what the unenlightened mind will typically do. I did it too when I was learning these teachings, right? So just be aware of that your mind's going to be constantly in there trying to sabotage your ability to get to enlightenment. It's kind of like you've got this dirty devil inside your mind that's like a bad tenant. It's just sticking around. It's not helping you. It's not giving you any benefit, and it's just taking you down this path of darkness. And that's what it's trying to do, is stay in this darkness. And the person's like, dude, I'd like to get to the light. I'd like to get to enlightenment. And the mind's like, nah, man, we're not doing that. So you kind of have to drag it along, you know? So just keep that in mind, that there's this internal war in your mind that's holding on to the things that you think you currently know about the world and unwilling to consider something else. But I can assure you that this is what leads to enlightenment. I know this with 100% certainty. That's why I give it away for free, right? If you discovered the cure to cancer and it was going to help people to live a long life, what would you do with it? Would you bottle it, mass market it, and then sell it to everybody at a really high price? Maybe, I don't know. Well, I discovered something that I think is better than cancer, a cure to cancer, because cancer only affects a certain number of people, but discontentedness affects everybody in the world. This is the cure to that. And instead of mass marketing it, bottling it, and selling it at a high price, I decided to give it away for free because I'd like to see it get in the hands of as many people as possible. So this is what's going to lead to your peacefulness and your joy, but you're going to need to build confidence to be able to do that. And the only way you can build confidence is to actually learn it, reflect on it, and practice it. And then when you see the condition of your mind and your life improving, you'll know that this is the truth, just like I do, just like the Buddha did. Okay. All right. So what I'm going to do here is it's 10:35. I'm going to take a break, mid-morning break. And then when we come back, I'm going to teach you guys this next topic. This is actually going to help you to go in. This is going to help you to go in and almost surgically remove cravings, desires, attachments in the mind, because this is actually what's hindering you from having harmonious relationships is your cravings, desires, attachments. So I'm going to teach you this process of going in and almost surgically removing these out of the mind. So right now, it's 10:35. Let's take a 20-minute break, and it'll be 10:55 when we come back. So thank you guys for the discussion, and we'll see you guys after break. Okay.